can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
Darling, I've told you several times before, I have no dream job. I do not dream of labor.
Huh?
Oh my God. Do it. Just do it.
100 times?
More.
200 times?
More.
500 times?
Probably.
Do it. Just do it.
Yeah, I don't even understand, bro.
You like that? You like that? Bruh.
Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another live stream. I decided to use a little bit of the intro that my good friend Mike out there made for me, made for us, made for the show. Thought I'd use it at some point, so why not start doing it right now? So anyways, hope you guys are ready for another show. Today's show is a little bit, kind of off kilter, a little off key, off center, I guess. Is simply because, well, usually when I do these live streams, I do them right after I do my regular live stream on my normal channel, the channel that I, basically pay my bills with, which is Jose Arteaga Travels. For those of you guys that don't know, now you know. Again, all the links are always down below, or you can go straight to my website, josearteaga.com. You can find out even more information. But, again, I'm an American that lives out here in Mexico, and I have a channel dedicated to that. And so what this channel is not that at all. In fact, this channel is basically what, kind of like what I envisioned or, had in mind a long time ago when I was starting YouTube, which was basically a channel about me. I know, right? How narcissistic of me.
Bruh.
So anyways, but really what this channel was gonna be was just me talking about all kinds of random things. But I've been there, done that many times. Again, I have another channel, my original channel, which is just my name, Jose Arteaga. But that channel just got destroyed by YouTube and the censorship, gods out there. Because when I made that channel, when I was doing content on that channel, it was still, again, a long time ago before, the YouTube apocalypses happened. There have been multiple YouTube apocalypses since I started that channel, and each one of those apocalypses basically kind of, attacked, things like copyright or free speech or whatever it is. And so therefore, that channel has been basically deemed dead by YouTube. So I wanted to originally start my content on that channel, but I just didn't because, well, that channel just, went on to get demonetized, as to where this channel right now that I just started a few months ago is on its way to get monetized already, because again, I learned how to play within the rules of YouTube. And that's basically how, what things that I've learned about life. You got to learn how to play between the rules, use the rules in your favor. Sure, we would all love to live in a world without rules. This is why I choose to live out here in Mexico. It has a lot less rules than you would have in a place like the USA. But at the end of the day, there are rules, and there's always rules. There's always guidelines. There's always kind of things that you have to dance around in one shape, form, or another in order to, do what you want to do. You still get to do whatever you want to do. It's just, again, whether you're going to complain about the rules, you're going to complain about life, or you're going to use all that in your favor. And so this is, an extension of that. So after so many years on YouTube, I've been on YouTube for over 8 years now. I've basically learned how to, dance around all of these rules. A lot of people complain about censorship. I already know that it's really, more of a, it really doesn't exist, okay? I don't want to get into all that right now. That's not what today's video is about. I'm just trying to give you some background here. This video is, obviously going to be talking about the time I lived on a boat in the middle of the Nevada desert. Yeah, that's right. I did that, okay? It actually happened, all right? It's a thing. We're going to talk about that because I know a lot of you guys are interested in that. But, at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people say, you know, oh, I got censored, or I'm getting whatchamacallit, shadow banned, or whatever it is. But the reality is that, you know, whatever it is you're making for YouTube or whatever platform that is out there, it just sucks. Okay, that's really the reality of it. And so, you know, we can sit here and make all these excuses or whatever, but, you know, there are plenty of people on YouTube or the internet that talk about things that, well, the powers that be don't want you to be talking about. But it's still, you know, the information still gets out there. They get millions and millions of views. And, you know, at the end of the day, they're not really that censored. Sure, eventually, if you get a little bit too close to the sun, they try to censor you. They try to silence you. They try to cancel you, whatever. But we know that doesn't really work that well. So that's something I learned throughout the years. And, you know, part of that is, well, I've learned to make better content. This is not something that I originally, you know, started off knowing about, you know, because again, you know, it's not like I graduated high school and I already knew exactly how to do this or what to do. It took a lot of time, took a lot of effort, took a lot of sacrifice, took a lot of work, you know, for me to get to this point where now I can, you know, just flip on the camera, talk, you know, to myself. I know there's some of you guys, I know there's a lot of you guys actually that listen to me out there, but you know what I mean. I mean, it's kind of like that, you know, at the beginning, especially when there's really nobody listening. This is a prime example right now, this channel. Last night, for example, when I was doing my other live stream on my other channel, you know, I had like 160 people watching me live at one time. You know, basically, you know, think about it. You know, try to talk to an audience of 5 people or 10 people, meaning, you know, try to talk to 10 people that are in front of you. It's not that easy, right? Well, imagine you got like 150 or 160 in front of you, and you're talking to all those people. Yeah, sorry about the noise out there. And you're talking to all those people at that one time. Eventually, that actually gets a lot easier with time and practice. But what the really difficult thing is, you know, doing what I'm doing now, which is talking. I mean, when I first started this right now, there was only like nobody watching. You know, now we had like 4 or 6 people. You know, it comes and goes. There's only a few of you guys watching out there. But again, it's a lot more difficult when you're basically talking to yourself and there's no one really to talk to. And that's one thing a lot of people, you know, fail to realize. You know, it takes them a while to figure out that, you know, they want to do videos, they want to do content, they want to do things on YouTube or other platforms, and they're afraid that, you know, what are people going to think of them? You know, what are these people going to, you know, again, how they're going to view you and all this other stuff, only to quickly realize that nobody's watching, nobody's listening, nobody cares. And the main reason I'm doing this more than anything else, you know, things on this channel is, like I've said before, like a lot of things that I've done on YouTube, it's more like a cheap therapy for myself. It's like cathartic, you know, very catharticism, whatever. You know, basically, long story short, I get to speak about these things or remember memories. Or look, one thing I want to do, I've been, you know, a lot of people have been prompting me to do for a long time, is to write a book, you know, about my life, because I've had such an insane life, and I still lead a pretty insane life, you know, compared to a normie, you know, someone that just lives a regular, normal, you know, 9-to-5 type job or life out there. You know, my life has been pretty insane, even though I've had 9-to-5 jobs, still pretty insane. You know, the stories I can tell, or I have. And so, you know, one of the things that I'm kind of doing here, you know, with this channel is not only am I entertaining you guys, but I'm also kind of doing some work for myself, you know, meaning that, hey, I need to kind of write these stories down. I'm a little too lazy to write. So I'm just, you know, doing these kind of podcasts, kind of, you know, shows where I'm just telling you guys my stories, you know, telling you guys about my life. And because of, you know, technology today, basically, I can just sit here, turn on the camera, tell you a story, you guys laugh, you guys get entertained, and at the same time it works for me because now I get this story, you know, that I want to make into a book, you know, all these stories I want to make into these, you know, this book I want to make, you know, at some point eventually, but now I get to have it transcribed. You know, this is all being transcribed for me, and little secret, you know, for some of you guys out there that are listening and don't know exactly why I do what I do. But the reality is that, you know, to me, it's like, you know, a lot of people, you know, they sit here and they contemplate about what kind of videos, what kind of content they're gonna make, what they're gonna say. They got, and the reality is they got nothing to say. Well, because they got no life experience or nothing really interesting to say, or they never lived an interesting life to begin with. But for me, originally when I was gonna do this channel, I was gonna read, news stories or basically comment on, what's going on in the world these days or whatever it is. Because again, that's something I used to do before, and on my original channel, and it was pretty good. It got me started on YouTube. But when I first started this channel here, I was going to do that, only to quickly realize it's like, this is kind of boring. It's not something I want to do. So I started telling you guys my stories, and sure enough, you guys are started to enjoy my stories. So I said, let me just continue with my stories until I got no more stories to tell. And then once I, run out of stories, then I guess I can go back to, commenting, on the craziness of clown world, the world that we're living in. The reason I don't do that at the moment is because, look, I got to do homework. I got to actually watch the news. I got to actually keep tabs on, all the insane things that are happening in the world. And even though I kind of do, these days I've learned that, in order for me to have mental peace, I've actually had to stay away from a lot of that craziness. And you eventually you learn that it doesn't really serve you that much purpose. Sure, you gotta kind of have to know a little bit of what's going on. Sure, I know we're on the verge of World War III, or we probably already started World War III, among other things that are going on in the world. But it doesn't affect me as much as it might affect you living in the USA. Since I'm out here living in Mexico, and I'm living in a completely, separated life, compared to where you're at, where you're a lot more tied to a lot of those events. I get to just sit back, enjoy life, you know what I mean? And sit back, smell the flowers, walk my dog, spend time with my wife, do bull crap bullshit like this, you know what I mean? And entertain you guys. And so with that said, in today's video, we're going to be talking about that time I lived in a boat in Nevada. And a lot of you guys are probably wondering, well, first of all, Jose, why a boat in the middle of the desert, well, we're going to get into all that. And then how did you end up there? That's a long story. And again, this is why I do these things, because I get to make a long story short, as I like to say, many times. But again, shout out to everyone out there that's watching. I know we got a few of you guys. I can see some of the stats. I see there's like 5 or 6 of you guys watching. Shout out to you. Appreciate you. I see Dave Murray in the chat already, chatting it up by himself. Shout out to you. He says, after the amazing apartment in Seattle, the guy got on a boat. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, so that's basically how it ended up. Okay, so after I left Seattle, okay, so for you guys, if you guys want more context on my Seattle story, check out my previous podcast. Actually, not the previous one. The previous one, I was telling you guys about the time I worked at the zoo and got high with an elephant. And I forgot to tell you a story that also happened to me at that zoo, where basically, there was a loose tiger or a loose, cat, one of those big scary cats in the park one day. We had to evacuate the restaurant because, well, that's where all the food was, and the hungry cat was going to go straight there. But whatever. Again, it's just a little blip on the radar of all the things that happened to me. That was just one day out of how many days now? I'm 42, 43, So imagine how many days I've been alive already. And that was just one day of many. So, yeah, Dave Murray, you got it right. So basically how it worked out is that I left Seattle, I think, when was it? It was 2017, I think. I'm pretty sure. It was early. It was like February of 2017. And when I left Seattle, one of the main reasons I left Seattle was the fact that I think I told you again, I just go back to that live stream so you guys can get more context on what I was doing in Seattle at that point. But like I mentioned there, I was in the weed industry, and unfortunately that dried up because the laws changed. And as soon as the laws changed, basically, you needed to have all these licenses. You needed to be, in cahoots with the government. It was all this stuff that, well, I wasn't able to attain. And since I wasn't able to attain these requirements in order to work in the weed industry anymore, I just decided to, cash out and get the hell out of Dodge. And at that point, you know, Seattle was getting crazy expensive. I mean, it was already pretty expensive, but at least, you know, you know, people were making money there. I was making money. It was okay. It was all relative. But eventually, like I said, you know, that industry dried up, and I only had one other choice, which was go back to the kitchen. Because I still had not figured out what I wanted to do. Even though I was already kind of starting to do YouTube, it was not something that I saw myself making money out of just yet. I was just starting to learn how to edit movies and edit videos and kind of get into that world, which would eventually, you know, that would help me pay my bills down the line for years, you know, until I was able to finally make money on YouTube and sustain myself from YouTube. Which again, it's not like I make much off YouTube. I make like $1,000, $1,500 every single month doing what I do. But out here in Mexico, that's plenty of money for me to survive on. Where in the USA, but in the USA, it's not enough money. You know what I mean? At all. So, but long story short, I left Seattle because the industry was no longer available to me, number one. Number two, everything was getting too expensive. Number three, I was already tired of Seattle. You know what I mean? I'm not going to lie. You know, Seattle was great and wonderful for a while, but it got to the point, you know, at least for me as a Floridian, as a person from Miami, coming from Miami is a different planet. Miami compared to the rest of the country is very different. So obviously I went to Seattle, which was the complete opposite of everything I knew. And it was okay at first, but after a few years, you know, I just could not take it anymore. It was just too much for me, you know, whether it was the weather, the people, you know, the food, you know, I can go on and on. All right. And so to me, it was just like, basically everything just kind of, it was like the perfect storm of things, okay? Like I said, no work. My lease at the apartment was drying up. You know, I mean, sorry, ending. Everything was getting too expensive, okay? So even if I wanted to renew my lease, it was going to be crazy expensive to live there. I didn't want to, you know, live there anymore. And then, like I said, I was just tired of Seattle, so I was looking for something new. So at that point, I had saved up a few bucks, and so I was thinking to myself, okay, you know, what are we going to do now? So I said, okay, at that point, I saw there was like one or two people on YouTube online that were doing that whole van life, you know, living out of a van type of thing, which, by the way, I know nowadays it's already passe, you know, because again, this is early 2017. And, you know, when I started, hit the likes, by the way, if you haven't already. Thanks again for hanging out with me today. Shout out to Goomer out there. Oh, sorry, you got to go back to work. Love you, brother. All right. Shout out to you. I saw you there last night. But yeah, like I was saying, so like at the end of the day, it's funny how when I was thinking about living the van life and kind of, you know, buying a van and converting it to a home and doing that whole kind of thing, it was still so early on that, you know, most people, everybody, in fact, thought it was crazy. But ever since 2017, again, late 2016, 2017, all the way up until 2024, which has been 7 years. Wow, I cannot believe it's been that long already. 7+ years. You know, not only has that fad come and gone, but, well, actually, sorry, I meant that, my English not so good. Anyways, but throughout that time, the fad has come and gone, meaning that, you know, throughout that time, well, a lot of people thought that was a great idea. They were going to start doing it. They started doing it. They did it. And now it's kind of like a passe fad where now it's kind of come full circle. And now it's like, well, you know, a lot of people are doing it, whether they want to or not. Because, again, the economy has deteriorated to the point and things have gotten so bad to a point where a lot of people, they've had no choice but to live out of their van or out of their car. You know, back when I was going to do it, I was doing it more for fun. I was doing it more for an adventure. I was doing it more so that I could, you know, travel the USA a lot easier and more freely, and not have to worry about paying rent. That was my main concern too. I didn't want to pay rent or whatever. So what happened was that, you know, as I was leaving, I had breakfast there. I had a little something in my my teeth. I know, right? Jeez, you know, it's so disgusting. You know, right?
Bruh.
As I was leaving Seattle, I had a friend of mine that basically told me, hey, I have another friend of mine that has a boat on Lake Mead. Now, here, let me show you exactly where that is, okay? So as you guys can see there, that's Las Vegas, all right? Let's zoom out for one quick second, all right? Las Vegas. and I was all the way up here in Seattle. Look, all the way up there. And at that point, I don't think oh, sorry, hold on. All right, at that point, I don't think I ever made it to Vegas before. I don't think I ever... Hold on, let me get it on the map there. Sorry. All right, anyway, so at that point, I don't think I ever even made it to Vegas yet. Maybe I visited Vegas once. That's it. But, you know, I didn't really know too much about Vegas. But anyways, I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let me at least go check it out and see if I like it. And if I like it, I'll do it. So anyways, I had a friend of mine, and he had a friend that had a boat on Lake Mead. Okay, so there's Vegas, so you guys can get a little idea, and that's Lake Mead. And the boat was basically, you see the map there where it says like the Hoover Dam? It was close to the Hoover Dam. Basically, right there, okay, you see right here, that's the entrance to the park, okay, and I would drive down that road, okay, and basically the boat was there, Lake Mead Marina. Show you, so it was one of those boats right there on Lake Mead, okay, all right, see, get an idea. So it was one of those boats. But again, I really didn't even know anything about this yet, okay? I didn't even do that much research as to, oh, let me Google it or whatever. This is like 7 years ago. I don't even know, you know, how much Google, you know, how much information they had on all this yet. But anyways, long story short, I got the address, I got the location, and I made my way down here. You know, I made my way, originally, no, that was later on. Okay, but anyway, so, you know, I made my way down all the way to here, and then, you know, I remember I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. Why not? And when I finally got to the boat, okay, and I was out here in the marina. Here, maybe. No. Is there? No, there's no view there. Okay, it's just a marina. Whatever. Okay. But like I said, let me see if I can find a good picture. I mean, yeah, I remember all this. I lived here. That's crazy. You look at the fishies. But anyway, eventually, you know, like I said, I made my way here to the marina, and I'm trying to see if I can find like a picture. These are all the pictures there of a boat that was kind of like similar. But anyways, it was like a boat where it was an older boat, you know, and you know, it was kind of like it was not a speed boat or anything like that. It was like a boat that someone could live in. You know, I don't know what kind of boat it would be. By the way, I wish I had more pictures, or I mean any pictures really, of that time when I was living there. But it was not a boat like this, okay? It was not nothing like this. In fact, it was more like that boat right there. Okay, you see that boat back there? It was more like that, okay? And so basically, you know, I remember the first, you know, I made my way out there, and I made it to that boat. And, you know, they gave me the keys, they gave me the whatever, and I lived in that boat. You know, it was something like this. Well, no, that's a big boat. You know, it was smaller. It was like that first one I showed you there. Maybe something like this. Okay? That's a tricked out boat. That's a nice looking boat. But it was just something like that. So basically, you know, I was like living in a motorhome on the water. You know, that was basically what it was. And it was actually pretty cool. You know, not gonna lie. It was really interesting because, look, this was my view a lot of the times. That was my view. A lot of these views of all these things that you're seeing here, you know, they were, you know, my views. You know, like that was, you know, the pier. You know, I was living out there in the desert. It was really cool. Now, it was really interesting because you know, to me, I had never done anything like that. First of all, I never been to the desert like that. I never lived in the desert. I never thought I was going to live in the desert. It's very, very weird, very different. Let me back out here real quick so I can show you guys a little bit more of kind of like what it was. But think about it, you know, like I'm out here I'm out here in the middle of the desert, out here in the middle of nothing. And there was nothing out here. And, you know, I was far away from Vegas. And I didn't want to be in Vegas, you know. I mean, ugh, you know. I went to Vegas a few times and it was just like no bueno. Yeah, okay, now I actually do remember when I lived in Seattle, I did go to Vegas a few times, you know, kind of like doing the touristy thing, and I didn't like it that much. That's why when my friend told me about living on a boat out here, I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I'm gonna like it, you know, because I didn't want to be in Vegas. But when I finally did make it out here, you know, and again, you once you leave Las Vegas proper, you make your way, you know, again past Henderson, past Boulder City, and you're basically out here in the desert, in the middle of nowhere with nothing around you. It's actually pretty nice. It's pretty cool. You're there with nature. And so it was actually pretty cool because, you know, for the longest time, I was living out there in that desert, and that was just me and myself and I. And we were just living out there, you know, again, just me and my thoughts. You know, again, every single day, it was just, I didn't have anything to do really, you know what I mean? Like, I would wake up every morning, just go through a little routine. You know, again, it was just like camping. Like I was living camping every single day. I had no responsibilities except to just make sure to take care of myself every once in a while. Let me see if I can find it here. There was a Walmart. So let me see where that Walmart is. Okay, so every once in a while, I would drive, you know, I would take my car and I would drive all the way out here to this Walmart out here. Okay? And then there was like an In-N-Out around there, so I would have my In-N-Out. But I would just go to that Walmart to just pick up supplies that I needed to live. Just basic stuff. I guess there's a few Walmarts, but whatever. It was one of these Walmarts here, you know. It was like it was literally the closest Walmart from there. But again, out here there's nothing. It's just like desert. Here, I'll show you like just a random. You see, like this is it. Look. So I was just driving through the desert, okay, till I got to the Walmart, to a little bit of civilization, which was Henderson, which was here. Let me see if the In-N-Out. I guess, yeah, the In-N-Out was over here. Right? That's the only In-N-Out, I think, right? Yeah. So, you know, and so depending on the day, you know, sometimes I would drive through Boulder City, okay, to get to the Walmart, you know, or the In-N-Out, you know, over there in Henderson. Or I would drive this other way. So, you see this road here that was through the park. So, okay, so I was staying in Lake Mead National Park. I think that's what it was called, right? What would it, maybe it's called something else. Yeah, Lake Mead National Park or Lake Mead Visitor Center, whatever. I don't know. But you know, I would come in through there so you guys can get an idea. So you see, look, there's nothing out here. Get an idea. So you see, look, it's just nothing, just desert. You see? And then eventually, you know, you're driving, and then there's like a little, you see a little road there? And then off that road, you would go into the park itself. Okay, there, you see? There's Lake Mead over there. There's the park. All right? You see? There's the entrance there, okay? And then long story short, you needed like, you know, if you were just going to go visit the park, you know, once, then, you know, once you came in through here, you would, I think it was there. That's a visitor center over there. You know, you would go in there and pay a fee, you know, to get inside the park. Or, yeah, I think that, I don't know, I guess they removed it or they changed it or something. But there used to be like a, kind of like a thing there, you know, to... You know, not anybody could just drive in here, you know what I mean? But long story short, you know, there was like a thing. Okay, and then basically you would have to, you know, go through that gate and basically, you know, show them your ID. So again, if you were just like a one-time visitor or whatever, or you're just going to visit for a day or two, you would get, you know, you would pay for the day or pay for the weekend or pay for whatever time you were going to be there. Or in the case of me, man, I don't have it here with me. I don't know where it would be right now. Maybe... I wonder if I still have it. Yeah, probably not. Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I've been so many adventures and lost so many things. But anyways, I used to have a special ID, okay, a special Lake Mead entrance pass ID that I would pay for. You know, I think I just paid once or whatever. But anyways, long story short, that ID allowed me to go in and out every time. And so I would just go through the gate, show them the pass. That's it. We're good to go. But yeah, you know what I mean? Basically, and then, you know, you're going in the park and you're just kind of driving, you know, you see, there's like nothing. You see? For the longest time. Until eventually you got to, you know, the actual lake area. You know, where the boat, you know, the campground, you see, all this stuff here. But see, I think I would just turn off from, you know, to this road here. You see? And just take it all the way down to the lake itself. You see, you can see the lake in the background there. But just nothing. And so, yeah, obviously, you know, I did all this during the day. You know, I never really left. You know, once nighttime hit, you know, I was in my boat and I did not leave at night or anything like that. Because obviously, because of the weather. I'm sorry, because of the no lights and you're out here in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert. And it gets a little scary, man. It gets a little sketch. Look, 2011 was the last time they took a picture here. But see, look there. That was kind of like the road I would take to get to. Is it? There you go. Okay. All right. Seems to work now. One of the roads. I don't know if this was the road I took, you know, to get down to the pier. But you see, look, it's like a dirt road, and then eventually, you see, look, it just turned into dirt, you see? And that's it, it just ends there. And then you make your way down to the docks there, you see? But I think I lived over there on that end. It's just that the lake has changed a lot because since we've been through, you know, there's been a lot of drought in the area. I've seen recent videos of, you know, what the lake looks like now. And it's like, man, the water table has gone down so much from when I was there. So imagine these these pictures are from 2011. So, which is like 13 years ago. So like the water's actually a lot closer, but like in today's, you know, lake, it's like there's even less water. And then you can see like in the mountain there, you see how it's white. Okay, so that the water used to be all the way up there, if you could believe that. And it's gone, it keeps going down and down and down. You see all that white? The water was all the way up to there. But if you look at recent pictures of today, oh my God, it's even less than that. So anyways, so yeah, it was kind of interesting because like I remember when I left Seattle, you know, I was like down and out. I don't know what to tell you because, you know, at that point I knew, you know, I had already experienced a bunch of things in Seattle, and I knew that I did not want to go back to the kitchen. I knew I didn't want to go and be in the weed industry, even if I wanted to. It's not something I wanted to do really. Even if I could, I mean, you know what I mean? Because again, remember that dried up, so it wasn't you know, kind of like a thing anymore. But long story short, I started doing videos, but at the same time, I knew that it was going to be a very long time before I was able to make some money or even make a career out of that. Assuming I was even able to do something like that. And so I was just like in a funk. You know, I guess everybody has like their own version of a midlife crisis. So again, this was 7 years ago, give or take, you know, so 7 years ago, I'm 43 right now. So I was 36 years old, you know, and then I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what my next thing was going to do. So I was like in a funk. And, you know, the reason I didn't like do the van life thing, again, I was telling you guys, you know, get a van and outfit the van and then do that van life before it was an actual thing. Like, you know, again, as we talked about earlier, the reason I didn't do that is because like it was going to cost too much money. That's one thing a lot of people just don't realize. You know what I mean? Like it actually costs money. You know, I would have, you know, first of all, I had to get a van. First, I had to get rid of my car. I had to get a van, then outfit that van. And it was actually going to cost money to make that happen money that I was not willing to throw away or spend, because to me, I felt, well, wait a minute, you know, I have some resources here. Why am I going to spend them on this and kind of like give up on life in a sense and just live out of my van when all I really wanted to do was just kind of like take a break and just kind of like, you know, find myself, you know, you know, do a lot of psychedelics. I don't know what to tell you, you know, whatever. And just trying to figure out what my next moves were going to be, what I was going to do next. And so, you know, when I was on that boat, believe it or not, I just had a lot of time on my hands. I really was doing nothing. I wasn't making videos. I wasn't working. I wasn't writing. I wasn't doing anything. I was just living on a boat. And, you know, eventually, you know, I got out of that funk and I wanted to start doing things. And I did start, you know, exploring and going to do things. And I did. But in the meantime, you know, for the first months, all I did every single day was just basically wake up. Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what I did. I would wake up. This is my routine, okay? So I would wake up in the morning, okay? You know, get off, you know, what is it? Get out of my boat. I would check my boat, you know, for, you know, make sure there was no, you know, how do I say this? You know, that the boat was fine. It wasn't going to be sinking or any kind of trouble with the boat real quick. Then I would walk from the boat, you know, down the dock, okay? All the way to the marina. You know, this area here. This is the restaurant in the marina, but it was here. Okay, I would walk to like this area here. I wish there was more pictures of it. But there was like a bathroom area. You know, there was like an area for people. You know, remember, people go out there to fish and do all kinds of things. So it was just like any other dock or marina. You know, they got an area to clean your fish. They got an area to like load and unload. They had the little restaurant. They got the public bathrooms, you know, like really good bathrooms, you know, all kinds of things. Okay, so long story short, you know what I mean? Every single morning I would wake up, and I would wake up crazy early, you know, before anybody got there, you know, before it was like popping. And I would go to the, you know, basically wake up in the morning to just go take a shit. I don't know what else to say. You know what I mean? You know, everybody does this in the mornings, right? I would, you know, wake up, make my coffee, do my thing, walk all the way over there, you know, take my dump, you know, do my morning routine, then go back to the boat. You know, while on the boat, you know, I would just figure out what I was going to do. A lot of times I would just sit there, smoke some weed, you know, feed the fish, you know, maybe walk around the marina, you know, the dock. You know, I knew some of the people there. It was pretty cool. Or, you know, a lot of people lived a similar life. You know, maybe go back to the boat, you know, work on the computer on bull crap. You know, a lot of times I would just sit there and watch, you know, YouTube videos down. Again, I'm in the desert and it was hot. So it's not like I was in that boat, you know, cooking to death all the time. So a lot of times I would have to figure out things to do. But still, you know, again, I've been in many places, you know, that are very hot. So I'm used to the heat, obviously. So the desert was just another extension of that. But, you know, long story short, it was just very simple life, man. I didn't really do much of anything. Now, the one thing I did do while I was on that boat, like I said, I was smoking a lot of weed. All right. And watching a lot of YouTube videos. So before I even left Seattle, okay, before I was in the weed industry, I was a chef. And so as a chef, you know, or, you know, again, just having a normal regular 9-to-5 or regular job, you really don't got that much time to do anything but work and dedicate to making money to pay your bills. But once I was in the weed industry and I was making a lot of money for doing a lot less work than I was used to, I had more time on my hands. So around that time, that's when I started going down the rabbit hole. That's when I literally discovered, you know, all these conspiracy theories and all these conspiracy and you know, all these, you know, truths, I guess. You know, back when they were still conspiracies and back when you still, you know, a lot of people would tell you, hey, you're crazy for thinking that or saying that. You know, back then I just started going down that rabbit hole. And, you know, so as I was, you know, my last few years in Seattle, you know, I was pretty deep down the rabbit hole. So by the time I got to the boat and I had even more time on my hands and even more weed to smoke and even less things to do, again, nothing to do, a lot of weed to smoke and a lot of YouTube to watch or a lot of internet to have, you know, whatever. I went so deep down the rabbit hole, so fucking deep down the rabbit hole that, I mean, geez, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, oh my God, am I going crazy because of all these things that, you know, that I'm discovering? You know, for anyone out there that's kind of been in that same situation, you guys maybe understand when you were first discovering these truths you know, when you were first going down the rabbit hole. It was pretty crazy and pretty intense, right? So, long story short, you know, that's when I really started going down the rabbit hole, and it started to really open up my brain and my eyes to a lot of things. You know, at that point, you know what I mean? You know, I already knew about things like, you know, buying Bitcoin, you know, cryptocurrency, you know, doing things like, you know, or knowing that, you know, the US dollar was fake, phony, and false. You know, invest in gold and silver, invest in all these other things. But more importantly than anything else, you know what I mean? Just basically, you know, all the things that we all know of today, I kind of already started knowing back then, but it was really way out there. You know, like people are like, bro, what are you doing? That's all crazy. You know, you blah, blah, blah. I would talk to people, you know, my friends from time to time as I was on the boat. And a lot of them were just like, hey, bro, I think you're going crazy out there. Yada, yada, yada. Which, by the way, eventually, once I left that boat, you know, I want to fast forward for a second. We'll go back to it. But anyways, once eventually I left that boat and I moved to Seattle. I'm sorry. And I moved to LA in Los Angeles. And then I was really in contact with my friends on a daily basis. You know, that's when my really, really good friend, my best friend in the whole world, my brother from another mother, again, the guy that I've shown you guys on the channel a few times, the guy that got me into YouTube to begin with, he basically said, hey, bro, you know, you're driving me crazy with all this shit that you're talking about, all this crazy stuff. Why don't you just get back on YouTube or get on YouTube and just talk on YouTube, you know, and say things on YouTube. Oh, hey, Adrian. Awesome. You are from Henderson? That's crazy. Well, look, I lived on Lake Mead in a boat on Lake Mead. So if you're from Henderson, you know all too well where I lived. That's pretty crazy. Oh, by the way, look, these pictures are a lot more recent, and look at how much wider and how much more the water has dropped from when I was showing you there earlier. But anyways, long story short, that's how I really got back on YouTube again. Was because of that, was because of all the time, a lot of it that I spent on that boat, and in a sense driving myself crazy, you know, going so deep down the rabbit hole and realizing, you know, all the things that were really going on. And, you know, like, to me, it was just insane to me that most people didn't even know about this stuff or cared about it to the point to do something about it or whatever. So, yeah, long story short, you know what I mean? Like, eventually, what happened was that, like, the guy that owned the boat, he wanted the boat back. You know, he's like, hey, man, I'm going to go back and I want to live on the boat now. And, you know, I was paying rent in that boat, but I was paying, like, I don't know, like $600 or whatever, you know, or less, $400. I don't know, but I wasn't paying much. That's why I was living on the boat, because I was able to live there, pay almost nothing in rent. And again, I got to, like, basically be on vacation for a long time. And so, long story short, I eventually left the boat or had to leave the boat, and I had to find another, you know, alternative to, you know, to where I was living there on the lake, because the guy wanted the boat back. So before that happened, I was like, all right, you know, let me go back to Miami. I want to visit family and yada, 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 to go see what's up in Miami. You know, I was thinking, I got to find somewhere to live. So I didn't know where I was going to go live. I was thinking, well, maybe I guess I got to start doing the van life stuff now. Or I got to find somewhere, you know, to move to or live or whatever. And so, you know, one of those adventures, you know, where I was, by the way, so even though living on that boat in Lake Mead, you know, that was my home base, I was doing a lot of traveling back then. So most of the time I was in the boat or in the desert or just hanging out in the park or whatever, you know, hanging out around, you know, again, I wouldn't go any further than Henderson, literally, or Boulder City. You know, that's as far as I would go. Man, I don't think I ever even went to Vegas, you know, maybe once or twice, because it's like I just didn't like Vegas. I hated Vegas. I was not a fan. But I liked Henderson. I liked Boulder City. I liked the area, you know, so whatever. You know, I kind of hung out there. But from time to time, you know what I mean, I would take trips to LA to go visit my friends, you know, and so I traveled down what road was it? At this road right here, I think it was 15, right? Yeah, 15. I would take 15, you know, or was it 95 and 40? No, it was 15. Yeah, I remember I would drive all the way here, take 15, Yeah. Okay, 15. So yeah, 15 is like the road. For anyone that's from this area here, you guys know. This is the road that you take back and forth. Okay, if you're going to Vegas or LA or whatever. Anyway, so I would take 15 all the way to LA to go visit my friends, and every once in a while, I would basically drive across the country. Look, all the way from there to Miami. All right. Hold on, come on. Stupid keyboard. All right, so I would take this drive on a regular basis, believe it or not, okay? So look, you see, I would drive that, to go see my family down in Miami and just try to, again, I was, especially towards the end there, I was just really trying to figure out what I was going to do. But in one of those trips, as I was making my way to Miami, and I was basically driving this exact same path, okay? I remember, my one of my stops, to rest, was at Amarillo, and I stayed in a hotel in Amarillo, whatever, and then I woke up in the morning and I drove down. Okay, and I was driving down this path. And by the way, every single time I would drive back and forth, I would always take different, paths. So a lot of times I would go through Phoenix, Tucson, go down through I-10. You know what I mean? Been many times, through Houston, San Antonio, Louisiana, things like that. I'm making my way down. Sometimes I would go north, you know what I mean? I would have been through Utah, Denver, Kansas. I've literally been in the middle of Kansas, in the middle of nowhere there. I've been through Kansas City, whatever. I've been through all this. I've been to Chicago. I've driven through all this, okay? But anyways, on one of those trips, I was like, all right, the one trip I never taken was this one, the one that you're looking at right now. Believe it or not, I can't believe this is the path that showed me right now, because I remember I actually had to go out of my way to find this path before, but whatever. The point is that I remember this was like the notorious trip, okay? The one that got me arrested in Texas. So as you guys can see, this cuts right through Texas, all right? Right through the top of Texas, the north of Texas, all right? And I remember, so I stayed in Amarillo. I woke up that morning, and then I was going to drive all the way down, probably to get to Louisiana. I don't know how long it was going to be from Amarillo to my next stop. But I remember when I got to this area right here, Childress, Texas, okay, around here, man, anyways, whatever. So anyways, around Childress, Texas, I don't know what I did there, jeez. What did I do there? Anyways, I got to Childress, so like around here, somewhere around here, before I actually got to Childress, Texas, I got pulled over. Okay, I got pulled over by some police officers from Childress, some really corrupt police officers. By the way, this is where I got pulled over, basically, somewhere around here, like in the middle of fucking nowhere. Scary, right? Think about it. Like nothing out here. And so yeah, I got pulled over and wrongfully arrested. We'll talk about that in another episode. But anyways, I got pulled over, wrongfully arrested, and I spent time in the Childress municipal fucking jail, whatever, whatever their jail was. And so I spent 3 days in that jail, and after 3 days in that jail, I got released. And then from that point, I continued driving all the way to Miami, because that's what I was doing anyway. I went to Miami, and in Miami, I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I realized that I really didn't have many options in Miami, because at that point, once I got arrested in Childress, Texas, once I got arrested there and that situation happened to me, now all of a sudden, not only did I have to leave the boat, but now I had this thing that was hovering over my head that I had to take care of, basically, now I had a criminal record in a sense that I had to, expunge or get rid of or fix. And now my life, got turned upside down, and I really needed to figure out what the fuck I was going to do. And so when I went back to Miami, I realized, okay, this is not going to help me. Being in Miami is just kind of going back to what I started, and but only in a worse situation. So I couldn't just go back to Miami because I was in a worse situation after what happened to me in Texas. So I was like, all right, whatever. In my mind, I knew that from that point on, things were going to be very, 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 very different. So I kind of almost like said my goodbyes to Miami. I think this is probably the last time I was in Miami. I send my goodbyes to Miami, send my goodbyes to certain family members and all this other shit. And I drove all the way back. And eventually I was going to come back to LA. But before I came back to LA, I had another friend of mine that said, hey, I think it was maybe the same friend, said, hey, I have another friend that's in Vegas and they have an apartment for rent. You want to go check it out? So I was like, whatever, man. All right, let me go check out the apartment in Vegas. But when I went to go check out the apartment in Vegas, man, that shit was fucking hood as fuck. It was more hood than what I left in Miami. And I was like, man, fuck this shit, man. I don't want to live here. This is just the worst. But so by that time, my friends in LA, they already kind of knew what happened to me. And they knew of, basically my situation in Miami. They knew I really didn't want to live in Vegas. And so my friends basically, they said, hey, Jose, just come to Los Angeles, okay? And all this was happening within a month time span, a few weeks to a month time span. So I was like, shit, man, what am I going to do? And, my friends were telling me, look, don't worry about it. We know you, when you were doing great, you helped us all out. And you were like one of the best friends we ever had. So now it's our turn, to pick up the slack for you. And so we know that, now you're falling on hard times and, you need us. So we're here to help. And by the way, that's why I didn't end up in Miami, because in Miami, basically everyone was just like kicking my ass out of there. And so like, well, fuck you, fuck Miami, fuck everything over there. And so that's when I ended up in Las Vegas. in LA. I originally didn't want to go to LA because I don't want to be a burden to anybody or anything like that. But when I saw when my situation was going to be in Vegas, I was like, man, fuck that shit. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do that. And I kind of just bit the bullet and I went to LA because I've always loved LA. And so I went to LA, and especially after having so many friends basically drag me to LA to come and live there. And by the way, before I even went to LA, I was in such a desperate situation where I said to myself, man, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck the USA. Fuck Texas. Fuck all this. Fuck all of this. Okay? Fuck everything about everything here. The corruptness and the horribleness of the USA. And I was like, man, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave the fucking country. I'm going to fucking leave and move to Mexico. But like I said, my friends, when they heard that that's what I was going to do after my Texas situation happened, when my friends saw, exactly what I was crazy enough to do because I've already done so many other crazy things in my life. My friends were like, no, man, don't go to fucking Mexico. You're crazy. We know you're crazy and that you are going to do it. That's what we're telling you not to do it. But no, there's no reason for you to move, to Mexico. I mean, because especially back then, everyone really believed, all the insanity about what Mexico was, that's super dangerous and horrible and the cartel and all this other shit. And so my friends, basically, my family, everyone I talked to was basically saying, no, bro, you're fucking crazy. Don't move to Mexico. You know what I mean? That's it. That's going to really be the end of you there. Just stay in the USA, try to fix your legal problems, try to whatever, come to Los Angeles, come, live with us and until you get back on your feet and you can get your own place and, just take care of all your legal problems. And once you take care of all that, then everything will be fine and you'll get to, again, rebuild and, everything will be okay. Don't worry about it. So I was like, all right, fine, whatever. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to move to Mexico sight unseen because up until that point, I've only been to Tijuana a couple times. And I don't know anything about Mexico. And, I was also scared of moving to Mexico and coming to Mexico and all that shit. So I was like, all right, fuck it. You know what I mean? Let me just go to Los Angeles. You know what I mean? And especially at that point, I was in such a low point in my life. And I lost everything because I literally had all this money, all these savings, all this everything. And I lost everything. I mean, so many bad things happened to me. I even had like a storage facility, and the storage facility was broken into, and they stole everything I had. You know, everything I had was stolen. Everything I had was taken away from me. My freedom was taken away from me. It was just the lowest point in my life. And so that's why I was like, man, I got to go to fucking Mexico, because if I don't go to Mexico, I'm definitely going to end up in jail forever for nothing, or end up on the streets for nothing. And I was like, man, fuck this shit. You know what I mean? But anyways, but my friends, you know, they convinced me to the point where like, no, man, we're not going to let you fall that far. Don't worry about it. And, you know, I got friends in high places as well, you know, so I was like, all right. I felt comfortable enough where I was like, okay, fuck it. That's what I'm going to do. I came to Los Angeles, right? And so, you know, that's what I did. And so, like, after leaving Miami, and I remember I had to cross Texas all over again, especially after being arrested just a few weeks prior to that. And I was so fucking scared of Texas, man, because of what happened to me in Childress. You know, what happened to me in the north of Texas. Eventually, I learned that area of North Texas is some of the worst parts of the USA. Super corrupt, super horrible. I don't want to get into all that. You guys can do your own research. But long story short, I said, fuck it. I'm going to cross, you know, through the bottom of Texas. You know what I mean? So I'm going to take the bottom route, you know, and I'm going to go through, you know, again, Louisiana, Houston, San Antonio, you know, El Paso, you know, something that I was already very familiar with. You know, I've been taking that route multiple times, but I was fucking white knuckling it all the way through. And for anyone that's crossed Texas, it's like, you know, 14 hours, 16 hours to cross it from end to end. It's huge. But long story short, I crossed that shit in one fucking day. I was not going to stay in Texas. You know, I was hating. I was so scared, man, of Texas, you know, after what I'm just getting arrested a few weeks prior to that. For nothing, for some bullshit. So anyways, some made up charges. I don't want to get into that. Like I said, I'll talk about that in another episode. But anyways, I white knuckled it through Texas. And again, I made it all the way back, you know, to the West Coast. I went to Vegas, you know, real quick, you know, to, you know, see if I can, you know, gather my things, only to realize it was all gone, stolen, missing, whatever. I went to go check out the apartment. It was fucking ghetto, fabulous, you know, hell on earth. So I was like, all right, fuck it. I got no choice. I'm going to do, you know, I'm going to go with my friends in Los Angeles. And so that's what I did. I came to Los Angeles. And, you know, my friends at that time, they lived in the Van Nuys, you know, Van Nuys area up here, okay? And they lived up here, and I already kind of knew this area a little bit. And so I came there, and that's where I was crashing for the time being, you know, on couches there, you know, in my friend's house, whatever. Until eventually, like within a month, I found a place to live. And I was Ubering and earning some money. And at that point, I forced myself to really, you know, start working into like editing videos and working for, you know, online, getting gigs and figuring that shit out. So I was like, all right, I was already kind of making enough money. And, you know, they didn't, you know, I still had a few bucks left, you know, because of my smart, you know, brain that I put a lot of money into Bitcoin. All right. And so it wasn't that I was making money on Bitcoin and a Bitcoin millionaire. No. You know, basically I put money in a place that nobody could take away from me. Okay. You know, basically the authorities couldn't take it away from me. The banks couldn't take it away from me. Nobody, you know, could steal it from me like they stole all my other stuff. So again, I can talk about Bitcoin forever, okay? And cryptocurrency. And I'm not one of those crypto nerds or anything like that. No, to me, it's really all about the technology, and it saved my life multiple fucking times. And simply because, you know, that's a place where I got to put my money and nobody could touch it. The end. Because look, long story short, I'll be honest with you. Look, I love my gold and silver. You know, you guys hear me talk about it a lot or from time to time, and it's great. But look, this is physical. Somebody can actually take it away from me, okay, and steal it. And they did. I had a lot of gold and silver, and they took it away from me. But guess what? When it came to Bitcoin, they couldn't take it away from me. They couldn't. It was all here. Okay? It was all cryptocurrencies, all here. So long story short, you know what I mean? I still had that to tap into. So anyways, when I finally found a place to live, it was right here in Reseda, which is right next door, which is how convenient. You know, you see Van Nuys is right there. Okay? Van Nuys is right there. Okay? All right? And Reseda was right over here. And by the way, I know this looks really close to each other, but that's like 20-minute drive, okay? That's how fucking big LA is. And so anyways, but this whole area of, again, Van Nuys, Reseda, whatever, Tarzana, all this shit here. Look, this is called the Valley. I'm sure you've heard it when you watch old movies on Los Angeles and be like, "Oh, you live in the Valley?" Yeah, the Valley. That's the Valley. So basically, I was living in the Valley. And again, this is Los Angeles proper here. Areas like Echo Park, actual Hollywood, Beverly Hills, West Hollywood. All these areas are right there. Santa Monica. I can go on and on. Inglewood, the hood right there. But anyways, long story short, this is at Compton down here. But anyways, this is LA. Okay, but this is also LA, but the Valley. But anyway, so that's where I lived. I lived in the Valley after I left the desert. And so basically I was living there trying to get back on my feet. So basically doing what my friends said to do. Basically my friends told me, don't move to Mexico. That's crazy. You're going to die. Stay here. Try to, pay off, those corrupt police officers in Texas. Try to buy your freedom back. I know they took everything away from you, but don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to help you to get back on your feet and just, work until you pay it off. And so that's what I was eventually doing. I just started working and doing all kinds of shit, to try to make that money. But it just seemed like it was just getting more difficult and more difficult to do that every single day. And it got to the point where my car broke down one too many times. I couldn't Uber anymore. I couldn't really tap into that shit anymore. And, basically the people in Texas, they were getting really aggressive. And they were basically saying, hey, listen, if you don't make these payments when we say you make them, we're going to send a bounty hunter after you in California because, what you were arrested for was a felony in Texas. And that's enough for us to send a bounty hunter out there to go get you for not paying your bills and putting you in jail for a very long time for not paying your bills. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I'm already starting to fall behind on the payment. They're about to send a bounty hunter. I don't know what the fuck to do. Things were getting pretty desperate. And so at that point, that's what I was like, all right, fuck this shit. Okay, that was like about a year into, trying to get out of that mess. And I was like, fuck this shit. And so I basically, I booked a ticket in Burbank Airport. Okay, and I flew out of Burbank. Yeah, by the way, Burbank, same place that Jay Leno used to, do the Tonight Show. Okay. That's how I always remember Burbank, all right? Nice area. By the way, I fucking love LA, man. But anyways, long story short, I love LA for so many reasons, but one of the reasons is because, when I really, really fell on the hardest of hard times, it saved my fucking life, and I was able to get on my feet and get, at least my head straight. But anyways, long story short, I fucking booked the ticket. Again, it's a really complicated story. We'll talk about it another day. But anyways, I booked my ticket from Burbank Airport. And I flew down to Mérida, Yucatan, which is where I live right now. Okay? So I basically flew from Burbank, from California, all the way to Mérida. Now, of course, the plane wasn't a direct shot. It fucking went to Mexico City, and then from Mexico City went to Mérida. But long story short, I left because I was about to get rearrested, okay, for a fake felony charge that some fucking corrupt cops in North Texas, gave me. And once I got to Mexico, I was hiding from those same authority figures and not letting them know that I was in Mexico. Because I didn't want them to freak out. I didn't know what the hell was going to happen, honestly, I thought it was going to get worse. Until the reason I went to Mexico was because I knew that they could not send that bounty hunter because I researched it. And I knew that they could not send a bounty hunter to come get me in Mexico, especially over that bullshit, made up fucking charge that they had on me. So, but again, still, when I was in Mexico, I was so paranoid that I didn't want to let them know that I was in Mexico and I was just trying to make my payments. But at least in Mexico, I was able to make my payments a lot easier. Because again, the cost of living in Mexico was a lot cheaper. So I was able to really, kind of get on my feet and make those payments, all right? But eventually, I wasn't making enough money. I was falling on kind of hard times. And even though I was making enough to survive in Mexico, I wasn't making enough to pay that bill. Okay, and at that point, you know, I don't know how it was. I think I fucked up one day, and I called them from my Mexican phone, and then they found out I was in Mexico. They were like, "Hey, why are you calling from Mexico? Why is this like it says here on the caller ID you're calling from Mexico." Da, 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 da. And basically, I fucking told them, man, you know what? Fuck you. I don't give a fuck about you guys. You guys can do your worst. I'm never coming back to the USA ever again. All you guys give a fuck about is my money. You don't give a fuck about anything else. And yada, yada, yada. And then anyways, they lost their shit because they were like, how dare you go to Mexico? We can't come get you there. We can't do anything. I mean, they flat out said it. You know what I mean? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I go, yeah, exactly. That's why I am in Mexico, because at the end of the day, I am trying to fucking pay my bill. I am trying to get my name straight. I am trying to get this felony bullshit charge off of me. And so in order for me to do this, you know, I had to do it from Mexico, because that way I don't have the threat of you guys, you know, trying to fucking arrest me or wanting to arrest me, even if I do pay my bill. And I could do everything from Mexico. And so long story short, you know, after going back and forth and fighting with these people, I basically said, hey, listen, we're going to do this my way or the highway. You guys want my money, and I want you to give me my fucking paper that says I'm free man. All right? And, you know, for me, I don't give a fuck if you give me that paper or not. I don't give a fuck. I don't want to go back to the USA. Fuck you guys. Fuck everything. But you guys care more about that money than anything else. So if you want me to continue making payments and you want me to continue paying you, giving you the money, then you're going to have to just, you know, deal with the fact that I'm in Mexico and shut the fuck up, take the fucking money and give me my fucking receipt, give me my paper, you know, that said I paid you, and we're done. We're done here. And so eventually, you know, they settled down. They didn't have a choice. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, that's how corrupt they were. That all they cared about was the money. And so long story short, at that point, all of a sudden, they started being nice to me after always being so horrible to me and constantly threatening me and my life and doing so many horrible things to me, even though I was in California. By the way, that's why another reason I was in California. They wanted me to be in Texas. They wanted me to live in Texas. They wanted me to, you know, constantly go to court and do all these things. I was like, no, fuck you. I know my goddamn rights. I know that what you're doing is illegal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be in another state, and I'm going to fight this bullshit charge through a proxy. Okay? Proxy meaning that I am not going to be in court. No, I'm going to send a lawyer to basically represent me through proxy. Okay? So that I don't ever have to fucking go there. Because if I'm there physically, you guys can put me in fucking jail for no reason. But if I send a proxy, you can't put an invisible object or a non-existent thing in jail. So fuck you. So that's why I was in California. But again, it got to the point where, you know, they were threatening to come get me in California for no reason. So I was like, man, fuck you. So that's why I went to Mexico. But once they knew that they really couldn't get me in Mexico, then all of a sudden the tables turned. They were all nice and lovey-dovey, and they cared. And they were just trying to like, okay, we'll do a payment plan. Okay, we're going to figure this out. Ba 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 ba. And long story short, you know what I mean? At one point, I got so fucking fed up. And by the way, at this point, I was already doing YouTube, even though I had like a few hundred subscribers. And I did like kind of like a desperate call for help to my YouTube subscribers at the time. And basically did like a little bit of a fundraiser. And a lot of people, you know, sent me some money. And I was able to get that money. And, you know, some money that I kind of had saved up. And I basically made the last lump payment to the people in Texas. And once I made that payment, I got my fucking receipt that, you know, felony was dropped. All charges were dropped. Everything was fucking bullshit. And, you know, I got my name cleared up. But yeah, long story short, the only way I was really able to do something like that was in Texas. Was in Mexico. All right, the only way I could get away from all that was in fucking Mexico, if you can believe that. And what was the felony charge? It was, okay, basically, remember, you guys know I smoke a lot of weed, so I had weed with me, but the weed that I had with me when they pulled me over, which, by the way, it was all bullshit charge. Like I said, we'll go into detail in another episode, but long story short, the weed that I had on me wasn't enough to give me a felony charge. It was just a misdemeanor, but that's not what they wanted. They wanted the money. They wanted to fuck with me. You know, they wanted to really, you know, again, put me in the system so they can get as much money out of me as possible. So they had to create and invent a felony charge out of nothing, out of thin air. So what did they do? Well, I had a bag of cookies that my friends made me, okay? Just regular fucking cookies, all right? And they said that those cookies had weed in them, or again, a controlled substance. And because of that, that is what they charged me a felony with. So basically, it was just some homemade chocolate chip cookies, all right, that they said had fucking weed in them without any proof that they had any weed in them. They were, by the way, they did not have any weed in them. They were just regular motherfucking cookies, all right? So that's how corrupt they were, that even though they found weed on me, they basically just put that shit back in my trunk and didn't give a fuck that I had that weed. They just wanted to stick me with a felony charge. So they just got some cookies that I had in a Ziploc bag, regular cookies, and they said that I had fucking weed in those, all right? But like I said, at the end of the day, why did I win my case? Because all they had to fucking do, well, first of all, it was a legal search and seizure. It was an illegal arrest and all this other shit. But even then, all they really had to do was prove that those cookies, were a controlled substance. Again, you need a drug test for that, right? You got to test the cookies, right? So they couldn't fucking come up with that shit. All right? So I don't want to get into all that, all right? But long story short, I was able to, by being in Mexico, I was able to stay free. You know what I mean? I was able to be in a safe place where I can now fight those charges from, again, another country, and again, buy my freedom back. And it took years of me doing that. And I know today's kind of story went off on a tangent. We went off, we left the boat and we ended up in Mexico and everything in between. But like, again, in between all that, you know how many stories I got? Many stories. And I'm going to be telling you those stories in episodes to come. So I'm going to be telling you about my arrest. I'm going to be telling you about my time in Los Angeles. I'm going to be telling you about, moving to Mexico. I'm going to be telling you about all these things. But at the end of the day, my life on the boat in Vegas, in the desert in Nevada, was pretty non-eventful. And all it did was basically allow me to to go deeper into depression and go deeper down into the rabbit hole of, again, finding all this crazy shit out that eventually, once all that happened to me, everything that happened to me where, again, I had to leave the boat. I got arrested in Texas, and I had to go all the way back to LA, and I had to live in LA and start over in LA. And I got back on YouTube. It was all that experience that all the knowledge that I basically what is it, like what is it? Yeah, I guess research or, found out about, while I was living on that boat, that basically got me started to go back on YouTube. And really, again, once I got back on YouTube after being in LA, during that time, again, I got back on YouTube because I started on YouTube, I think 2008 or some shit like that. But it was just on and off. But it wasn't until after the arrest and after being in Los Angeles for a little bit. It was December of 2017. I'll never forget it. December of 2017. No, sorry. December of 2018. Wait, when did I? No, December of 2017. So it was December 2017 when I finally got, back on YouTube, and it was just daily videos, daily vlogs about me talking about Bitcoin and conspiracies and, all the things that were going on back then, which eventually, well, now, I feel like I've been proven correct. Not just me, but so many people that would talk about these things back in the day. This is why I don't talk about it these days anymore, because like, again, people don't listen, even though, anyways. The point I'm making is that it was December of 2018 when I got back on YouTube. Sorry, December of 2017. And from December of 2017 all the way until June of 2018, which is when I moved to Mexico, was all the time that I was doing, YouTube basically daily. And I was just talking about all the things that I had learned, on YouTube and through my research about, again, everything, I found out as I was going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. Whether I was talking about cryptocurrency or I was talking about, all the conspiracy stuff, or I was talking about whatever the fuck I was talking about, And you can go back and watch those videos. I was doing them out of my car. I was doing them in the room that I was renting. So believe it or not, I lived in a room that's as big as this office that I'm living in right now. Sorry. As big as this office that I have in this house that I'm renting right now. So right now in Mexico, I rent a whole house for $350. $350 US to rent a 2-bedroom house, with a yard, again, just a front yard, a backyard, garden, the whole thing. And in LA, I rented a room that was the size of just this office here for a little over $1,000. Yeah, I know, crazy, right? But yeah, long story short, you know what I mean? Like, when I moved to Mexico, that's when I started, the minute I landed in Mexico, before I left Mexico, in fact, I'll show you guys. I might as well. I have it here. It's right here on my front page. So you guys can check it out real quick. I guess we'll just wrap it up with this here. Hold on a second.
Ahora entrando al partido.
I can't really show that. I can't really show this because it's gonna. This is a little copyrighted material there. Yeah, I'm trying to keep this channel here in good standings. Anyways, look, so you see, look right there. See, June 2nd. Okay, Saturday, June 2nd.
Thank you.
Look at that. Saturday, June 2nd, okay? 2018, okay? And that's in LA. There's my bags. All right? And just me making my way out of, that's, who I was staying with, By the way, that's after I left the place I was living in. I had to stay somewhere for a few days, before. That was my last blunt in LA. Anyways, but that was my last few moments. So, the last few days in LA, I had to stay with somebody. So I stayed with my friend, Davia, which is the best friend of my, which is the sister of my best friend in the whole world. But anyways, so yeah, that's where I was staying right there, which is, again, still kind of crazy looking back on all this shit. But, so yeah, from that moment on, I was recording because I was already kind of doing the vlog stuff, a little bit here and there in between the videos that I would do on the channel. So what I did was that I said, fuck it, let me vlog my whole adventure. Let me vlog my adventure from leaving LA and moving to Mexico and vlogging, my adventure. Now, I wasn't really thinking too much ahead of time there. I was just thinking, all right, I'm just going to document my life, my adventure, through this whole process. And then as I was documenting it, I realized I was, basically creating content for the future in which I was going to be able to help people with. Because, again, as I was documenting my own adventure, there's Burbank Airport. As I was documenting my own adventure, that was in turn, kind of like setting the groundwork for so many people that were in a similar situation and had to get the fuck out of Dodge in one shape, form, or another for whatever the reason was, and move to Mexico, move wherever they had to move to. For me, I was escaping tyranny. Some people, I've talked about to women or people that have, are escaping abusive relationships. There's all kinds of people out there. You know what I mean? It's some people just want to have a fresh start. There's many reasons why you would want to leave the USA. It's not all about, moving out here to retire. So all I was doing was just kind of documenting my own. I think that's Mexico City. But for me, I was just documenting my own experience, as that's Mexico City Airport there. They were reconstructing it or some shit. But anyways, just documenting my own kind of adventure in my life, as that was happening. And I didn't know that eventually in the future, this was going to help out so many people. Because it's like, now that's what I do for a living. I have a YouTube channel where I basically, talk about life out here and doing things out here. But that was the reason for me leaving the USA. It was because if it wasn't for me leaving the US, if it wasn't for making that decision, I'd probably be in jail or be living on the street or be dead. And so I was like, no, none of those things are going to happen to me. And so I fucking left and started a brand new adventure. And I was like, well, let me start documenting this adventure. Why not? And that's it. It kind of basically led me to what I'm doing right now. which is pretty crazy, right? So there, that's me entering, you know, the Yucatan. That's right before I landed here in Merida. But yeah, kind of crazy, right? Just looking back on all this. And there's me landing, you know, here at the local airport, which I've taken off from multiple times. You know, again, we just came from Guadalajara on another adventure. And yeah, you know what I mean? It was just there. That was my first night ever here. And that was my Airbnb. And I was like, fuck, I felt like I was in Cuba because it was just such a disconnect from everything I knew. And I had to get a cheap Airbnb, stayed in the hood, and all this other stuff. And little did I know how modern Mexico actually was. I thought I was in another I thought I was in a third world country. And I was just so happy at that time because I thought to myself, well, they're definitely not going to find me here. They're definitely not going to get me here. But yeah, I remember the huge sigh of relief that I had, you know, just coming to Mexico and landing in Mexico and being in Mexico. And it all stemmed from, you know, basically, again, after I left Seattle, I was depressed because I didn't know what I was going to do next. I went into that boat and lived on a boat in the desert. And I was, again, continuing to spiral into depression, you know, not knowing what I was going to do next. I did not want to continue, you know, living like a rat or a hamster on the hamster wheel, chasing that cheese like everybody else. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. And then eventually the universe, you know, basically gave me my next adventure. Because if it wasn't for the arrest in Texas, if it wasn't for that whole situation in Texas, I wouldn't be here now. Because the thing is, it's like, if I never would have gotten arrested in Texas, maybe I would have stayed in Vegas. You know, maybe I would have gone to another boat. You know, maybe I would have gone to, you know, and stayed in that apartment in the ghetto in Las Vegas. You know, maybe I would have moved to LA. Maybe, I don't know, I would have done a bunch of other things, everything but move to Mexico. But it wasn't, you know, until that arrest happened in Texas and then all these other things happened and I lost everything. And basically the universe, God, whatever, took everything away from me. And I had no choice. You know, I had no real choice but to, you know, figure out what I was going to do. That eventually led my way to Texas. So that's why, I mean, even though I was very angry and bitter about what happened to me in Childress, Texas, you know, what happened to me in that area there, the reality was that if it wasn't for that situation, I wouldn't be living the amazing life that I live right now. I wouldn't be married to the amazing wife I'm married to. I wouldn't have a magical talking horse. Yeah, that's right, motherfucker. This guy's vulgar as fuck. Sorry about that. But anyways, you know, I wouldn't... You know, I wouldn't be living the life I live right now. You know, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now, telling you these stories. You know, again, I have so many stories to tell. I got a book to write, books to write. Like I was talking to you guys about this earlier. And this is all just part of my life adventure. You know what I mean? All this kind of just came together in one shape, form, or another. And so to me, it's like at this point, I'm just kind of grateful that I survived. You know, I wasn't, you know, I remember my first night in jail when I was in Childress, you know, and I don't know, I felt like that scene in My Cousin Vinny. You remember My Cousin Vinny when he got arrested and he was happy in jail and he finally got some sleep? That's kind of like I felt because I was like, man, I know this is really horrible, me being arrested. I'm in the middle of nowhere. All this is just horrible, 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 horrible. And I don't know if I'm going to get out or not. But the reality was that in my head, it was like, not only do I know I'm going to get out, but now I know that I don't know what the fuck is going to come ahead of this. But I do know that my whole, the period in my life in which I was uberly depressed, you know, again, from leaving Seattle and living on the boat and just spiraling into depression, you know, like that part of my life was over. Because now... Again, I was confronted with the biggest hardship that I have ever been confronted with ever in my life. And I knew that this was the beginning of a crazy adventure that I was never, ever going to forget. And I didn't know how I was going to get out of jail. I didn't know how I was going to take care of all that situation after I got out of jail. I didn't know anything about what the future was going to hold. I just knew that was day one of my new adventure, my new life, my new everything. And, you know, it is kind of crazy to see how it all kind of turned out and it all developed. But the reality is that, man, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of surreal because I know a lot of people that would have been in that same kind of situation. They would be crying, you know, they would be, you know, very, even more depressed, even suicidal, even all this stuff. But I'm never going to forget. I remember when they threw me in jail because I was fighting with the cops. You know, I was like really physical and, you know, I was not going in there. You know, I was going in there kicking and screaming. And I remember when they finally threw me in the fucking jail and I was in there with a bunch of inmates, like, you know, hardened criminals for the most part. And they basically, you know, thought I was fucking crazy. And I remember because, look, I was a chef, I was a cook. And so I worked with a lot of felons. I've already kind of know those people. So to me, the minute I was in jail with those motherfuckers, it was not anything new to me. And so I knew immediately, you know, how to talk to them, their language and the whole thing. And so I would just kept acting crazy and upset. Well, first of all, because I was, but second of all, you know, once I turned around and I faced the people that were in the jail with me and I realized, you know, what my situation was now, I knew I had to continue, you know, kind of being that crazy person. And sure enough, you know, eventually, you know what I mean? Like, you know, they all just kind of, you know, huddled around me. They're like, hey, who are you? Ba ba ba, bidi bidi ba. I started talking. We started getting to know each other. All these criminals, and you know, at the end of the day, they were like, man, you're pretty cool. You're pretty fucking awesome. And you know, settle down, man. Don't worry about it. You know, you don't have to be that mean to them. And I was like, you know, some of those guys are good. I'm like, fuck them. You know, they're not good. How could you say that? You're in fucking jail. Whatever. Anyways, long story short, I befriended these hardened criminals very quickly. And so I was not scared of those people. I was not scared of anything. You know what I mean? Like, really, I was just more like, man, now what? And I remember, again, like I said, the first night in jail, you know what I mean? I was like, you know, they turned the lights off. Everything was off. I was laying in my bunk bed. And I was just staring up at the top bunk because I was on the bottom bunk. So I was staring at the top bunk. And, like, the biggest smile came over my face. And like I said, you know, I had just spent many months, you know, maybe over a year, very depressed. And all of a sudden, that was like the first day that I remember being so happy and smiling and the whole shit because I was like, holy shit, bro. How the fuck did you end up here? How are you even here? How are you going to get out of here? How did it, da-da-da-da? And at the same time, I was just answering my own questions like, well, we don't know how we're going to get the fuck out of here, but we know we're going to get out of here. You know, they say, you know, this is just the way it's going to be. You know, you've been in worse situations and you know, I've been in some really rough shit, you know? So to me, it's like, all right, man, just, you know, stay hard, you know, like Goggins, you know, David Goggins says, just stay hard, you know, stay with it, and you're going to be able to get the fuck out of this situation. And like I said, we don't know what's going to happen going forward, but we know that this is day one of your new life, your new adventure, your new everything. And sure enough, you know what I mean? Once I got out of there and everything transpired, you know, I ended up in LA. I was in Los Angeles for a while. And then after that, I made it to Mexico. And as everything just kind of was happening, I was like, fuck, man. Wow. You know what I mean? And like I said, I wouldn't be living the life I'm living now if it wasn't for those fucking pieces of shit in Texas doing what they did to me. And as much as it pains me to say this, you know, in a weird way, I kind of thank them because by them trying to kill me, destroy my life, you know, whatever, man, they saved my life without them even knowing, you know, who the fuck I was or what was going through my life or my brain or whatever at that time. And, you know, I'll never forget that. You know, I'm honestly, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that bullshit, for that crazy shit. And now because of all that, you know what I mean? Those people just trying to, you know, do horrible things to me, you know, again, you know, put me through the system and do all those things, take everything away from me and all that shit that happened. In turn, they created a monster because this monster is this person that you're seeing right now and talking to you guys now. And basically, now I've been able to help. You know how many people I've been able to help since I've been out here? How many hundreds of people? I don't want to say thousands, but I'm sure it is thousands of people. But at least hundreds of people a lot of them that I've actually got to meet in one shape, form, or another. It's pretty fucking crazy, man. And, you know, yeah, it's very humbling, all right, to say the least. But, you know, the reality is that that's life. And you either roll with the punches or you get eaten alive, all right? I know, I just made that up, but how about this? I'll go with Mike Tyson's quote. I love this quote so much. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. And so for me, you know, I've been punched in the face so many fucking times. All right? I've been punched in the face so many fucking times that, and like I said, you know, you eventually know, you know, how to deal with that. And so many people, like I said, they got all these plans, they got all these ideas, they got all this stuff, but they never really been punched in the face. But when you've actually been beaten in the face by life over and over again, it gets to the point where, you know, you can take a punch like a champ. And not only take a punch like a champ, but you get to share, you know, these stories like I'm doing right now. I get to share these stories, and I get to share my life, and I get to share so much with so many of you guys now, and in turn help so many of you guys. Whether it's entertainment or whether it's on the other channel where I'm actually helping you guys, like literally helping you guys, you know, get the fuck out of your horrible situation. Because, well, I did it. So can you. So, all right, guys. With all that being said, I want to read the comments real quick before we go. All right, because I know some of you guys are out there, you know, leaving a few comments in the chat. But yeah, look, long story short, guys, you know what I mean? Like, you know, this video went a little longer than I wanted to. I thought today was going to be boring and I was just going to do 1 hour, but it went longer, and I'm glad. This is why I do these things, because, you know, like I said, it's very cathartic for me. So Ray says, Jose, I am from a family of USA immigrants. I was born in the USA, first generation. Oh, cool. Just like me. I'm leaving the US, coming to Mexico to live free. I want to buy a truck camper, and drive down there in the camper. Awesome, awesome. Would I advise against this? No, you can do whatever you want, man. You know, this is not the channel to talk about that stuff, but you already heard my adventure in my life, okay? And you can do that. People do that. It's just that, you know, use common sense, research, and that's it. You know what I mean? Just make sure you know where you're going and where you're parking, and that's it. You know what I mean? Just look up videos and look up other people that are doing similar things in Mexico. And like I said, you know, there are parts of Mexico that can be dangerous, but there are plenty of parts that are not dangerous. And the reality is that, you know, unless you plan on living in nature, because that's what you want to do, you know, again, I paid $350 for a house. So, you know, you can pay rent out here, all right, if that's your concern, you know, that you're not going to have enough money for rent. But if you want to live with nature, yeah, you can live with nature. There's plenty of places you can do that out here. But just make sure that you understand that you're going to be out here literally living with nature, okay? So, you know, make sure you know that. DB Goodman says, true. One of the reasons I want to get out of LA, takes forever to go anywhere. I guess we were talking about when I was showing you, you know, the valley. Well, DB Goodman says, didn't know that some weed got you in trouble. Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, that's Texas for you, man. And so the reason that they don't want to legalize weed in Texas is because, well, they invest more in the prison industrial complex, and they make a lot more money from that, okay? And I got to see that firsthand. And, you know, to me, it was kind of naive to think that that was still a thing in some of the states in the USA, because I was already living on the West Coast for so long, where weed was basically like cigarettes, where nobody really gave a shit. You know, they gave more of a shit about alcohol than weed. So to me, I was like, whatever. It wasn't that big of a deal. But when I went through Texas, and I went through all that shit in Texas, and you know, in the middle of the Bible Belt or whatever, yeah, I know, it was kind of crazy to see them still think of weed like if it was like heroin or fentanyl or some crazy shit like that. And then again, you know, once I got to know the people in authority there, and I got to see really what was going on, I saw right through them, and that they were full of shit. And I called them out on it. I remember, you know, basically, you know, calling, because I remember the bonds lady, the lady that was kind of like, you know, charging me on my credit card to get the fuck out of jail and stuff. And she was trying to give me a lesson as to, you know, how horrible weed was and all this other shit. And I was like, man, get the fuck out of here. You know what's horrible? You guys are fucking horrible. And what you guys do is horrible. Oh, but God is like, oh, God? Oh, so you think God is smiling, and he's, you know what I mean? He's gonna, what is it, sign off on what you're doing here to humanity, and how you're ruining lives one after the other? You know, so anyways, I went off on them. And long story short, you know, she eventually saw it my way, which I never thought she would. But she's like, yeah, you make a great point, you know, like maybe I should look into, you know, reassess, you know, my life decisions and how I look at and see other people. But eventually, you know, I know she said that, and yeah, but eventually, you know, when I was in Mexico and I was fighting with people, you know, she was one of the people I was fighting with, believe it or not. Okay, so at the end of the day, you know, they use God and religion as an excuse and a pretext, you know, for them to be horrible fucking humans. So I'm not anti-religion or anything like that. I'm just anti-fucking shitty people. And, you know, when people use things like religion or whatever it is, you know, to act shitty, you know, man, I fucking hate that more than anything else. So, yeah, fuck that shit. So, but yeah, man, Texas, man. I do not have any fond memories of Texas, okay? At all. At all. You know, like I know a lot of awesome people that come from Texas, and I know a lot of people that love Texas, but I don't have any good memories of Texas. You know, before my arrest, you know, during my arrest, after my arrest, you know, every single fucking time, you know, I was going through Texas, there was always some shit I had to fucking deal with. And I don't know. I don't want to get into all that, but not a fan. All right. So, by the way, thank you all for all the kind words, you guys. I really appreciate that. How's the weed in Merida versus LA? Well, LA is a million times better weed than anywhere else. You know what I mean? Like, so no, yeah, the weed in Mexico kind of sucks compared to what you're gonna find on the west coast of the USA. So, but anyways, but I think that's it, guys. I think I'm gonna, end it there. I read your comments. I saw what you guys had to say. Thank you so much, DB Goodman. Thank you so much, Ray. Shout out to Adrian in Henderson, you know, my old stomping grounds. Well, you know, I was only there for a little while, but, you know, shout out to you. Shout out to Dave Murray and Goomer. Hopefully he's been listening to this later. And shout out to everyone out there. I saw there's a lot of people listening, you know, and watching out there. You know, you guys are not interacting in the chat, but I see you. So shout out to all of you guys. Appreciate you guys. And I think that's it, guys. I think we're going to just wrap this bad boy up. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video, today's episode, today's story time. We got so many more stories to tell you guys, as you guys, you know, kind of heard, as I was kind of giving you my story after what happened after I left the boat in the desert. Many things happened after that, and many things happened before that. So we'll be talking about those in future episodes, because we have many stories to tell, and a crazy life that I've lived. And you know, like I said, once I run out of stories to tell, then we'll see what else we're gonna do here. But so far, so good. So, all right, guys, I really appreciate you guys. You already know the deal. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Look forward to seeing you guys here next week for the next video, for the next topic, for the next show. And again, you can always check this out on Spotify, you know, I'm assuming you're not listening to it or whatever. And I'll see you guys on my other channel. Again, please go visit my website if you haven't already. Okay, and on my website, you get to see even more stuff. Okay, like I said, you know, you get to see my other channels and my other content, and that's it. So I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Look forward to the next show, and I'll see you guys here next week. Thanks again, love you guys, and later, Gators. Bye. Appreciate you. See you later. Bye.